Mulder, I got the impression you didn't believe him either.
I didn't want to incite his already clearly aggravated imagination, but there is a weird feel to this place. And maybe there's some truth to those rumors.
I think he incited your imagination. I think this case is nothing more than a murderer taking advantage of local folklore. I mean, there's nothing odd about...
So, lunch?
Mulder, toads just fell from the sky.
I guess their parachutes didn't open. You were saying something about this place not feeling odd?
Hello and welcome to episode 42 of Most Unwanted, an X-Files podcast. Introduce ourselves is my next note on that.
Nice and smooth.
I'm Luke, and with me every week, as ever, always with us, every time,
Hello.
Daniel Checkley in the hot seat. How's it going?
Not so bad, mate. Yourself?
Not too bad, not too bad. I'm trying to wacky it up now because you've told me I'm too straight-laced.
You are too straight-laced.
Too straight-laced, so I'm going to be a bit more zany.
Okay.
Yeah,
Zany. I like it. Is that your idea of zany? Just a lot of descriptive words.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
You know those zany people? They love adjectives.
They just kept describing me. I don't know why. Yeah. So what have you been up to this week, I suppose, or this week coming as our episodes are time displaced as we're just out of order. But yeah, what are you up to?
Not a lot, to be honest. I thought, because we always struggle about what we're going to talk about in the second episode of the recording session, because we've not had the week to talk about it yet.
Yeah.
So we've always thought about it. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to talk about my New Year's project, which I've not mentioned on the show before.
Have you not? I thought you had brought it up before.
Oh, had I? Well, then
know.
this is going to be a wasted conversation.
Well, we'll see. If
I'm going to repeat it.
Listeners, tell us if he's mentioned this before. Same old story, Checkley.
Well, I think I might have, to be fair.
No, carry on.
As I may have already mentioned, me and my partner are going through the top 250 films. And it's very relevant right now because obviously, as of time of recording, Oscars are coming up.
It's the Oscar season, yeah.
So we've got all the nominations in. Do you pay much attention to the Oscars?
I usually keep up. It's one of those where I had this conversation at work. The actual winners, I'll be honest, do not care. Do not care at all. And not because it's like, oh, I'm not trying to be like edgy, I don't like the Oscars or whatever. It really didn't bother me.
Yeah.
I don't care because when I see like best film lists, I go, I'll watch all those.
Yeah.
And
I completely agree.
I'll decide. And if like the winner is one that I didn't like, I'm not going to get angry about it. But like, I know of like on that list I've watched like Black Panther. There's something else on there. I can't remember the best film list now.
Shall I pull it up?
Pull it up. Yeah.
Where's I can't find my phone. But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'm the exact same as you.
Yeah.
I feel like the nomination list is more important because at the end of the day, we know that the winners are picked subjectively.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, their best film might not be everyone else's best film. But I always like to see because it tends to be indie films and that I've not even heard of before at the time of nominating. So
the thing is as well, I think people get too wrapped up in validating their opinion. You know what I mean? Like, it really doesn't matter if you really loved a film and it didn't win best film.
No.
I mean, it really doesn't matter. Like,
the fact that it's nominated is enough.
I always had this conversation with, I think it was Aid, like a friend of ours. We're talking about people not liking bands or music acts that you like and then saying that they're horrible. Does it matter if somebody else doesn't like it?
No.
If you like it, it really
It's all subjective, and people could understand that and just like what they like.
Instead of getting angry at somebody not liking stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, who cares?
But let's run through it. This is a fun little project.
Yeah, let's go through it.
So we've got 8 films nominated. Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen that one.
You've seen that one. Yeah. Black Panther.
Seen that one.
Which, again, you can see why that one is nominated. And then we get into some of the ones that I haven't seen yet. So The Favourites, which I really do want to see.
I want to see that, yeah.
In fact, I want to see all of these. Yeah. Black Klansman.
I want to see that really badly. One.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that struck me with that. That's the first nomination for Best Picture that Spike Lee. I think Spike Lee, isn't it, the director?
Yes, it is, yeah.
It's the first nomination he's had in his 35-year career of directing films.
Oh, wow.
I think it was an Instagram story that he did of his entire family cheering when the nominations went up. And it's so great that, like, again, when I said I don't care who wins, I mean it as, like, I just want to see the list and I'll watch films.
Yeah, but it's nice to see them get the validation.
To see somebody, like, it means more to them. And I can understand it completely, like, validating or you know, them feeling happy for getting these nominations and stuff. So, yeah, for more power to...
Oh, definitely.
But yeah, Black Klansman I really want to see.
Another one I really want to see is Green Book.
Yeah.
That was we literally spoke about that off there about 5 minutes ago. And then we've got Vice, A Star Is Born, and Roma. I've seen Vice and Roma, both really great films. Roma's an interesting one because I can completely understand why people wouldn't enjoy that film.
Yeah.
But like and you know me, and I'm pretty sure you're the same as me, you look at films from a different perspective. You like to see the sort of cinematography and the way it's made. Roma is perfect for any film fan, I would say. Yeah. It's such a beautifully shot film. To
be fair, I like both spectrums of
film. Oh yeah, of course.
I love like art. It sounds really bad saying this. Arty films.
Yeah.
Where, you know, they don't tell a conventional story and it's a lot more told in the visuals and the aesthetic of stuff. But I also like popcorn, like dumb,
of course,
action film or stupid horror film or something. You know me, I've watched some terrible horror films, and I still get entertainment out of them.
Yeah, and that's what they're made for. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. But so I just think it's an interesting time, especially for sort of film fans. I do like exactly what you said. I like to find all these different films, and so another 8 films to add to my ever-growing film list. But you know, we're making good progress. Like honestly. It's great, you know. It's just every time we've got an hour and a half spare, we'll just pick up the list and go, let's watch this one, and then we're guaranteed to have if not for our taste, at least it's a good film.
Yeah,
it might not be a particularly one that we would watch again, but it's guaranteed to be a decent film.
Yeah,
it's a really good idea. Yeah. I definitely recommend anyone else to sort of have a look into it.
I think I added the 250 onto it. I mentioned a while back I have mine's even nerdier. I have Excel spreadsheets of like films and different stuff. My film and books and that are quite small because I'm one of these people, I'll add stuff to them and get around to them eventually. My game one's ridiculous. I had a look the other day. I've got 2,400 games in there.
Oh my god!
Some of that I've completed. Half of them. I look at them. I'm like,
I'm never going to touch them.
It's going to be an uncompleted list, frankly, by the time I'm like, whatever I am on. Yeah,
how sad when we're going to go through that when you popped your clogs. Yeah. We're going to see he didn't touch any of them.
10%, the loser.
But anyway, what about you? Well, what have you been up to in the next week?
Talking of rekindling old loves. You say you're getting back into films and like, you know, trying to, I mean, everyone likes films anyway, but trying to get back into that swing of like keeping it up with films and stuff like that. I've got back into comic books.
No, we went through a phase a few years back.
It was right around
2013, I'd say.
12, 13 when it's
and you got me into comics.
Yeah. We started getting into them like just as they were doing this yearly trend where they say, oh, it's all starting off again. It's only but we started then. We kept up with it for a good like 2-3 years, something like that.
Yeah, we used to like on a daily basis text each other and sort of talk about what we've been read and what we've reading and if we find anything new. And then we both just sort of
drifted off.
Yeah, drifted off.
It's difficult, to be fair, like
to keep up consistently.
And we've spoken about it in the past. They have constant resets of their universes and stuff, and it's like I understand why, because they're trying to encourage new readers, and at the moment they need to because it is dwindling. Which is surprising when the films are doing so well.
Not just the big two, not like the superhero ones, but like independent ones, like Image, like Vertigo, like those sort of different publishers.
Yeah, so I can understand why they do these, but it does impact your connection to like reading these characters like stories, I suppose, when they're constantly like having their status quo reset, and you're like, oh, okay, this is But I thought this year I've been looking at comics again and be like, oh, I kind of want to just get back into it. So I've sort of been rereading the events of like the Marvel series at the moment, so to just keep up with those. And again, reading and catching up on some other series ones, talking of Image stuff, Saga. If you've never read a comic in your life and you want to get into sort of this like space opera comic, Saga is absolutely fantastic. For a book that's about like aliens, essentially, I've never read a more human story.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
It's like a Romeo and Juliet story, basically. These two like races,
star-crossed lovers.
Yeah, these two races. There's two lovers that basically have a child that they're not meant to, and then are trying to cover this up as they're on the run from these two governments. And yeah, it's just so like powerful, like the actual like story between like these characters and whatnot. And I've just caught up with that, and the very last issue. I will not spoil anything because I know you're keeping up as well.
Yeah, I'm going to.
God, it gives you a right gut punch. Like in terms of like character sort of deaths and stuff, and like with Game of Thrones, like that's quite impactful with a lot of them. Saga's just the same with its characters and stuff like that, and the stuff that happens to them.
My opinion on these, I find the independent comics are quite often the best, and I tell you why. I think it's because out of all the different forms of media that you can consume, I don't think any form especially independent comics, have as much freedom to tell the story that they want to tell. Yeah. Like it literally can be anything. And like I've read some fantastic talking about Saga. It was one of the best comics going at the moment. One of my favourites is Chew, which is literally about a detective that
it's so funny, isn't it? It's amazing.
You can get telepathic thoughts through eating, and basically you can imagine where that ends up going. Yeah. Lock and Key is another one of my favourites. I really
need to read that.
Phenomenal. If you like horror stories, it's just phenomenal. It's so good. And so yeah, I think if that really gets me into it. And of course, I like the sort of the big two as well. I particularly remember. Just before I was siphoned off comics, I particularly remember Azzarello's Wonder Woman as just being just incredible storytelling. So for original storylines, definitely recommend. But yeah, I'm thinking about getting back into them myself because I do miss it. I do miss it. I'm not gonna lie.
It's that perfect fusion of reading a book and watching a film. It's sort of that mushed together. And because it has that freedom, because you can draw and write whatever you want. You're not. I know these days it's a lot easier in a film to CGI something, but it's still hard with a smaller budget film.
Definitely.
In a comic, if you have an idea, it doesn't matter about budget. You can draw and create whatever you want in this world, and like you can go from some comics that are Image produced. Are literally crime thrillers. There's nothing like supernatural or crazy about them. They're just about a crime family. Yeah, they're really good, like noir noir stories.
Like Criminal and
stuff like that. Ed Brubaker is
phenomenal.
Perfect at that. He had a run on Daredevil, which was quite lauded, I think.
Yeah, he did.
What else did he do now? He's done some more. You usually find with like these creators, they'll start in Marvel. Or DC, not to just say it's Marvel, but they'll start them on the big two, and
they've got projects in the back of their mind that they save.
They're like
save for themselves.
They're like, I don't want to put my best ideas into this, and then they'll go off into like a smaller publisher who says do what you like, and then like brilliant, I can do this story. That's where Sagas come from. It's this huge scoped space epic that is really explicit in terms of like
Brian K. Vaughan.
Brian K. Vaughan.
I tell you, I mean, as great as Brian K. Vaughan is it Fiona Staples?
Yeah, the artwork is amazing.
Have you ever seen something? So some of the shots are just beautiful, absolutely stunning, and like Fiona's like, don't get me wrong, it's brilliantly written. That book would be nowhere near the success it is without that artwork. Because she is phenomenal.
Yeah. She recently did, or recently finished up doing Archie. Do you know, like the classic American comic Archie in it? Like, So it just shows that she's got the breadth to do, space, aliens, and just teenage dramas. But yeah, so I've been getting back into that recently. At the moment I'm just reading Marvel stuff, just trying to catch up with that. Some good, some bad. One of the events was a bit lackluster. I think I described it to you. It's called Civil War 2. And I think my text was, it's less a civil war and more of a civil disagreement. But yeah, the one after that was really good, like the event. So yeah. I think I'm going to stick with it this year. I think,
Sweet. Yeah, that's good.
it.
Keep us up to date.
Yeah, we'll do. Probably not too much, though, because I get the feeling people are like, I don't think.
Yeah.
Comics, wrestling, I don't give a shit. Get on with the X-Files.
Well, we've done comics, we've done films.
Yeah.
Let's talk about TV now.
That's TV. Now, what have we been watching? Well, I'll tell you what we have been watching. A lovely episode of the X-Files.
We certainly have.
Entitled The Hand Die Verletzt.
Let's get to it.
So, this episode, Die Hand Die Verletzt, as we said earlier, is episode 14. So we're pretty much at the halfway point now, aren't we? I think there's 25 episodes of this series.
There is, yeah. I don't know whether... I'm imagining the last episode is like a double parter, maybe.
Maybe, yeah, I don't know.
And that's why they've done 25. But yeah, there is 25. So just over the halfway mark.
Yeah, pretty much. So it was directed by Kim Manners, and it was written by Glenn Morgan and James Wong. The original air date was January the 27th, 1995. My brother would have been 2 days old.
Oh, wow. Yeah. There you go.
So, yeah, our previous guest of the podcast theme. So, yeah, we'll just get straight into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, we start off, and it is the Parent Teachers Committee in Milford Haven, NH. That's New Hampton, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah.
Or New Hampshire.
We've been wrong before.
Yeah. And we see this conference room in Crowley High School. We see this emblem that says "Live free or die." I don't know if this is like a common motto or something.
I've not heard of it, but I took it at face value.
Yeah. And there's a committee who's discussing these various different school issues, and they start talking about the jogging track. Now, I might get the names of the PTC mixed up because the Amazon X-ray or whatever it was that basically lists who the actors are and what role they play. I think it mixed up two of them.
Oh, okay.
I honestly think it did. Because, like, in the script when I was reading, I was like, wait a tick, that was another guy, wasn't it?
To be honest with you, I don't think the names are that important.
Not really, no.
I made a note of the names at the start, and then I didn't reference them for the rest. Like, I literally I sort of just, for the rest of the episode, referred to them as one group.
Yeah.
The teachers.
Yeah.
I referred to them as the teachers throughout.
The only real name that you need to know is Jim Aubrey.
Yeah.
Because he's sort of more of a main character, I suppose, than the others. But the others are just a group, yeah. So, it doesn't really matter. But anyway, if I do get these mixed up, I apologise. But you get the gist of it. So
now, if he does get these mixed up, tweet in, abuse him.
I'm going to get trolled, basically. So there's a man brings up, this man being Paul Vitaris, brings up the spring drama production, and he says that Howard Roberts, who I'm guessing is another teacher that we've not seen, wants to put on a production of Jesus Christ Superstar, and they all start smiling and laughing. And this is where, initially, as everyone must have at the beginning of this one thought, this is going to be like an ultra-religious Christian like group who are like, they're a bit conservative about certain things. Boy, was I wrong. The head of the committee, or what I assumed was the head of the committee, Jim Aubrey, says that he, Howard just wants to do things that the kids all like doing. And a woman, Deborah Brown, says that it's just not appropriate for this school. Again, so you think, they're just a very conservative school.
Yeah.
You hear about
these. Again, and it's super conservative, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, it's a play.
It's a play. Yeah.
It's not really going to pull up any trees, but you can tell by the way they're acting, they're really worried about it.
Yeah, yeah. But like I said, you do hear about this in certain places as well. So yeah, another man, Pete Calcagney. I think I've got that right, says that, maybe they should try Grease, but then Paul says, but that's got the F word in it.
I don't remember the F word being in Grease.
I don't remember that either. Maybe it's in the stage production, not in the TV version.
But surely they could just take it out.
I would
say fudge.
Flip, yeah.
No, fudge. Fudge is funnier.
Fudge, yeah.
Oh, fudge. Tell you what.
Anytime we swear.
Every time. Take that caption. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say fudge.
Yeah.
Right. And then anytime we swear from now on, you've got to take this caption of me saying fudge and put it over top. Okay, so here we go. Fudge.
We'll see if that happens.
We fudge. We'll see.
That's the one account that you can swear on this, so yeah, no more. But anyway, Jim adjourns the meeting and says that he'll speak to Howard. And Deborah says that she wants to lead the prayer today. So again, we think we're getting
it's a very deeply religious school.
Exactly. Pete says, I just want to go and watch the game. But Paul says that they shouldn't. They've been letting themselves slip lately, which comes into play later on. And we hear thunder, and Jim lights a red candle. He asks Paul to get the door. Okay, this is it's still nothing weird at the moment. Candles can be in churches and stuff like that. So we hear some ominous music, and the door shuts, and we sort of see it now from the other side of the door. So we see the outline of the light, and then they start chanting, and we hear them say, "In the name of the Lords of Darkness, rulers of the earth, kings of the underworld, I command the forces of darkness to bestow their infernal power upon me." What a swerve!
Yeah, I thought the exact same thing. So they're cultists, basically.
Yeah.
And as they're saying this, like, there's this massive bright light, and it looks like something's happening. Like, it's not just like they think they're talking to the devil, or some dark forces, because the room, as you say, we can see from the corridor, and it's lighting up. It's like getting very bright in there. So,
Yeah,
and they're worried about the F word.
I know. Yeah.
Fudge.
They do carry on. Deborah says, "Die Hand Die Verletzt," the episode title, which translates to "His is the hand that wounds."
Okay.
And they carry on speaking more in German. I don't remember what the rest says. And then they say, "May the black powers of our forefathers make us strong. Hail, hail, the Lords of Darkness." I really, really like this opening because it sets you up to think one thing and then just completely pulls the rug from under you.
And usually we have to wait until like 3/4 of the way through an episode to get the swerve.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I wasn't expecting this.
Yeah, usually the beginning episode is literally a guy who's like, "Oh, I don't want to work late," and then something will jump on him and kill him. And you're like, there you go, there's the setup. This is this was perfect because you instantly know now. Oh, this is a satanic sort of cult worshipping plot. I guess
we're going to be dealing with demons. I assume.
Which from the outset, I was really interested in this one because I know we've sort of had cults and this kind of stuff in the past, but we've not really had them tackle specifically like Satanism or like a
religious entities.
Yeah, like what not a Christian thing, I suppose, but like something that a Christian person can relate to as, and a supernatural entity.
Yeah, definitely.
And I suppose if it goes into space, it could go into religion as well, if it's investigating all these phenomena. So yeah, it's really interesting. But anyway, we then cut to after the opening scene, or after the, what's it called now? The title sequence. I drew a blank there. We're back in Milford Haven, and we're in the woods. It's raining, and we see these 4 kids basically coming through the forest. There's 2 boys and 2 girls, and we find out the boys are Jerry and Dave, and the girls are Kate and Andrea. One of the girls starts asking, "How much further is this?" And the guy says, "It's just up here. We're looking for this altar that's a hollowed stump." So again, we're getting more occultist kind of stuff.
You get the feeling that they don't really know what they're doing. Like, I think the hint is that they're just trying to impress one another. Well, it does sort of go on to say that later on, but
they even go on to say the 2 guys are talking to themselves, and they say when they get spooked that they are going to separate the girls, which was a sinister line. I thought.
Yeah, I mean,
it's meant innocently, I guess, as just
it's kids being kids. I don't think it was meant as sinister as that, but it doesn't come across as great as it.
No.
Divide and conquer.
It's a bit weird, they are drinking as well. They find this altar and they light a candle, and they say that they need to give up a personal item. They stand and face one another because they apparently need to call the spirits in every direction, but you can tell this is just deployed by the guys to get them
split them up.
Yeah, exactly. And Kate asks if this place was really used for black magic, and Dave starts reading this chant, basically.
It's like a black magic book, isn't it?
Yeah, we heard it earlier is what they were saying, because I think he does repeat those lines about the Lord of Darkness and this stuff. And then he says the word Azazel, and the candle blows out, and we start hearing these like voices around them. He carries on with the speech, but Andrea gets scared as rats start appearing around their feet. Andrea screams and runs away. They chase after her, and then this like jet of fire bursts out of nowhere. And we see Jerry run in, and we see someone grab him, and then we hear this crunch, and then we cut to the next day. It's still raining, and we see a white tarp. This gloved hand is sort of handling it.
Yeah.
We see Scully, and she's looking at this under this tarp with a look of disgust. And the sheriff, John Oakes, says that Hunter found him this morning. Scully says that he must not have been dead more than 12 hours at this rate. So we're led to believe now that this is this Jerry that we just heard get crunched, basically. Yeah. The sheriff says that this area used to be used in witch ceremonies. And Mulder asks who he means by they. And he keeps saying that, and he says that everyone around here knows about these ceremonies.
It's like an urban myth, I suppose.
Yeah. And you do hear about this in like certain towns. They have their like legends, I guess. And he says that there are people who control things. Again, leaving it quite open as to they, and we still don't know who they are.
And we don't know whether this is like an actual account or superstition at this point.
Yeah, exactly. To which Scully even then says, ever the pragmatist, she says, is there any evidence for this? And he says, well, look at the body. He's had his eyes and his heart cut out.
Oh.
Which, it's definitely culty.
Yeah, definitely.
And he says that these kids used to listen to devil music, which Mulder then jokes about the night Chicago died, which I did look into, but I've never heard that song before in my life. But yeah, I think it's just a sort of reference to sort of heavy metal music and that.
Or a song that he doesn't like.
Yeah, maybe,
you know what I mean?
Maybe, yeah. The sheriff then says, heavy metal, this stuff, kind of stuff.
Speaking of, I mean, just go off on a tangent a little bit. Literally, before we started recording today, I mentioned to you that I happened to come across David Duchovny's album.
Oh, yeah.
That is interesting, man.
Is it good?
I listened to one song. Should we play you one?
Yeah.
I'm going to play you one.
Okay.
I mean, we'll see how it...
Play like less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Just in case.
We'll see how it sounds. I mean, we might just record it and put it on top, because it might come across really bad.
To be fair, it does. This mic picks it up quite well.
Okay. So, his top song on Spotify is Hell or High Water.
Hell or High Water. It's got that hell vibe about it as well.
I'm skipping in.
You can tell it. You can definitely tell it's him.
So I found my new obsession.
Do you know what? It's not as bad as I thought it would be.
I get the feeling it's like a country album, I guess.
Yeah. Or like sort of like a soft rock.
But yeah, how did I not know this about him?
Yeah, he's the Renaissance man, and he's just doing everything.
Yeah, so interesting.
Fair enough. Well,
maybe that's the devil's music.
Oh well, who knows? But anyway, Mulder asks if the sheriff has ever witnessed any witchcraft, to which he says no. Scully's having none of this, and he starts saying what we've heard about this stump being an altar. This is the sheriff saying this. Whereas Mulder just jokes that, to be honest, it'd probably just make a nice coffee table, so he's not giving it any sort of credence, I guess. The sheriff starts noting about the candles, and again, he keeps trying to prove it, saying that these are used in these ceremonies. And he says that he assumed that he was alone out there. Now, they immediately call him out on this and say that, well, there were beers around here, a 6-pack. He's not going to be drinking a 6-pack on his own.
Yeah. And not come out into the middle of nowhere to do so.
Yeah. Easy detective. Like, I'm no detective. I know if a group of people go out into a wooded area, you can usually tell their footprints.
Yeah.
What is he been doing?
Wasn't it raining as well?
Yeah, it's
like
raining.
It'd be muddy, and there'd be obvious signs.
There's got to be something. I just feel like, I mean, to be fair, they do mention later, the PTC mention that Oates is sort of involved, so maybe he is just covering stuff up.
I mean, it's possible, or it could be just that he's so blindsided by this supernatural element that he's not even looking into the sort of the physical evidence.
Yeah, exactly. True. And the sheriff carries on and says that they're rattled, and he says that there may be a deeper conspiracy here, but Mulder's not convinced about this. He said he's heard the stories, and he says the area's weird, but he says maybe they'll need to look up this book that they found this sheet from in the library. Mulder jokes that maybe you'll need to hide your Megadeth albums to Scully. Scully thinks that he's just not lying, but he's caught up in this superstition, basically. Yeah. Mulder does say that the death does look ceremonial, and Scully sort of sighs and thinks, you don't actually believe this. And he said he didn't want to incite this to the actual sheriff, but he thinks...
Because he'd be feeding into his fantasies at that point.
Yeah. But he thinks the area is weird, and it does deserve an extra look. Yeah, exactly. Scully just thinks it's a bog standard murder. And then at this point, toads start falling out of the sky.
Yep. Scully's face is classic.
Yeah.
She just doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
They're bouncing off her umbrella, aren't they?
They both have their umbrellas up and they're sort of bouncing off the top and onto the floor and then hopping away as well. So they're actual toads. To which, as soon as it stops, Mulder just says, lunch? And Scully's sort of a bit dumbfounded that he's just nonplussed by this. And she says that toads just fell from the sky, to which, again, Mulder says, I guess their parachutes didn't open. So this guy he's just all jokes today. And then he says as they leave, you were saying about this place not feeling odd? Anyway, they carry on to the Crowley High School library. And they're looking into a box of library cards, and eventually we see one for Witch Hunt, a history of the occult in America. Scully walks into the library and she starts saying about these toads might have been picked up by a nearby tornado.
Yeah, she's trying to explain it away, isn't she?
Which, to be fair, you do hear about that. When weird stuff's rained from the sky, it usually is like a tornado.
Did you ever read that news story? And it was absolutely horrific. I think it was in Australia of getting some sort of sudden wind or storm brought in these spiders.
Oh God! In Australia, of all places,
they were humongous, and webs were just flying through the sky, catching onto buildings, and it looked like a horror village of this just entire town just covered in spider webs, and these spiders were just literally falling from the sky onto people. Oh my! I would die. I would die.
To be fair, in Australia,
probably would,
literally, yeah.
But just figuratively, oh God, I couldn't think of a worse thing to happen. I actually, again, sorry, going off tangent again, because I'm terrified of spiders. I'm not. I don't know why. I'm just not a fan of them.
Yeah.
I went to we was
tell about Spider-Man.
I like Spider-Man. Spider-Man's fine, yeah.
Till he gets 6 limbs and then leave him. Or 8, whatever it is.
So we went to London Zoo about a year back, and they got this spider enclosure, and it was a proper personal thing for me where I was like, I have to do this. I have to go through. And so it's only this little tiny room, and it's a circle walkway, and you have this massive tree in the middle. And obviously all the different spiders had made their own webs and stuff like that.
Oh, they're loose?
Yeah, they're loose.
Oh, no, I wouldn't like that.
They're loose, right?
No.
And so, but they're all in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So it's fine. You go through these multiple, those doors that flap. So that things can't get out.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going through all that. And I'm Gem's in front of me, my fiancée. And I'm clinging to her back. I'm like a child at this point. But I had to do it because everyone else was doing it. And for my own benefits, you know what I mean? I had to force myself to do it. So we go, and Jem walks through, and I'm like, you know what, this isn't too bad. And I'm looking at the tree, I'm like, there's spiders. And then on the walkway, the pathway that you got, there's a spider that starts coming down from above on a single little strand of web, and he's just lowering himself down. It's about the size of my thumb. And I just froze. And I couldn't move. I couldn't go back. I couldn't go round. Couldn't go under him because I just froze completely. It was horrific.
Yeah.
I hated every moment of it. But I was so proud once I got out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. You actually done it, yeah.
Really strange story, I know. But, like, yeah, so I can imagine all these strange goings on aren't nice, especially if you don't like that sort of stuff. Because
they're flinging at you.
Oh my god! Honestly, it was horrific.
To be fair, like spiders, I don't have a problem with them. Like if I see a spider, I can pick it up. The only time I don't like spiders is when they surprise me.
Yeah.
Like, there was a the biggest house spider, I guess, that we have over here, or the big ones.
Yeah.
I was sort of watching TV just in bed one day, and Tasha was asleep. I literally, at the corner of my eye, saw this huge spider run from under our bed towards the door, and I was like, what the hell was that? Jumped out of bed, terrified, because Tash is absolutely petrified of spiders. Yeah. I was like, don't leave bed, just stay there.
Don't leave bed. You've lost all grammar.
But she's probably
me deal with.
She's probably thinking, there's a burglar. I'm just like, stay there, it's not safe. So I go running out and this spider it's like the size of my hand. It's huge. It's the biggest house spider I've ever seen. Australians are probably listening now thinking, that's nothing, pal.
No.
But over here it was just startling to see. But if I see one, if I'm just watching TV or something and one's on a wall and I know it's there or something, it doesn't bother me at all. I'm not like, oh no, there's a spider there.
Yeah.
And I can pick them up. It doesn't bother me. I really don't. But yeah, surprise spiders are always the worst.
Spiders are the worst.
We might as well stay on this tangent train. Talking of things falling from the sky, have you ever listened to the Lore podcast?
The Lore?
Lore, Lore.
No.
So they do. It's basically he takes true stories from the past about different things. Sometimes it's it can be strange phenomena and stuff, and sometimes it's just weird crime stories. The one he was talking about, this guy, a guy got murdered and they couldn't find out who it was. And long story short, it turned out the murderer was his wife's secret lover who was living in the walls of the house.
Oh my god!
It was only in the 1920s. This was as well. It's in America. It's a really interesting story. But anyway, yeah, he talks about this stuff. And there was one where he's talking about an island off in America somewhere, and a really religious, sort of this was 1700s, really religious family was persecuting this woman there because he basically wanted the land. And then a rain of bricks started hitting their house, and it was that kind of thing, like a tornado or something whipped it up and did it.
Yeah.
They used that as ammo to say she's definitely a witch. She's done this to and got rid of her off this land.
Oh
and then
God.
he bought the land for nothing because it was reclaimed.
Yeah.
And it's what a terrible.
My God.
But yeah, it's really.
No, he's an opportunist. That's what he is.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. But as a podcast recommendation in the middle of this, check out Lore. It's really good.
Oh, I might just do that.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, we should probably carry on.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. So yeah, Mulder explains this book that Dave checked out, and this is the one that he was reading this passage from. We're then in a science lab, and we pan along these benches, and we start seeing all of the other people from. We start seeing the other people from this group, basically, and we see the supply teacher or the substitute teacher, as they would call it in America, is Mrs. Phyllis Paddock, and she said she's taken over from Mr. Kingley as he's out sick. There's then a knock at the door, and Mulder and Scully enter, saying that they want to speak to Dave, and as soon as they say that, he jumps out of his seat and bolts for the window. He's trying to climb out, and unsuccessfully, Mulder just grabs him by the ankles and pulls him back in, basically.
You can't claim that it's not you at that point, can you?
Yeah, I mean, you've
made your bed.
It's difficult, to get out of. They're then in Calicagni's office. We see Dave. He's sort of frightened and he's defending his story. And he says he's not into that stuff. And he says they only went up to the altar to, in his words, get some. And the girls look disgusted at this. He says that he doesn't know a thing about witchcraft and he never thought it would work. And Mulder asks why did he run if they didn't kill him, basically. And he said that he's scared of this ceremony that they performed and he thinks that they've called up a devil. Again, you think it's quite early on. It's quite I don't know, the way it is. It's sort of not comedic, I guess, but it's got a lighter tone to it.
Yeah.
And yeah, especially like this sort of like devil hysteria. You hear about this a lot in like American media and stuff like that. So yeah, initially you could see it as just teenage sort of fantasies getting away with themselves and stuff like that. But anyway, we'll carry on. We then see the PTC who are watching from the reception outside the office, and we hear Jim say that one of the PTC has killed Jerry, and he asks who it was, and he says that Jerry was displayed according to the rites of Azazel, this name again that they said earlier on. And he said that they stopped doing this. But Paul says that he went out there, and he went up there for a mass. And he says, but no one showed up, so they just left. So it couldn't be any of those, because they'd have left at this point and no one was there. Pete says it wasn't any of them. And Paul says that there's an angry presence amongst them. And then we see the teenagers being let out by Mulder and Scully, and the PTC come out and they look really annoyed by this. Mulder says that they've got no evidence to charge them on, basically. And Deborah says that they never leave evidence. Again, they keep saying they, which Mulder calls them on. Basically.
Yeah, he does. It's they're constantly talking about this sort of... It's like the Illuminati, isn't it? It's like they're just talking about like this... No one knows what they're talking about, but they're all talking about the same thing. It's really strange.
And they say... Jim says that they know he was killed in some occult ritual. And Pete said that they come to reach out from us from outside, and the group thinks that they've been influenced by the occult, or this occult has been influenced by the media. And Scully snaps at this point, and she says that there's been a 7-year-long investigation, and they've found that there's no evidence or little evidence of occult activity in America.
Yeah.
To which Paul says, and I'd never heard of this before. He says that J. Edgar Hoover once admitted that there was never any existence of the mafia.
Yeah.
Which I'd never heard of that before, because J. Hoover was the 70s, wasn't he, or something like that? From the 20s. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was the first director of the FBI.
That would make sense.
Yeah. He was the first director of the FBI. I mean, I think he did live up until like I think it was the 50s or the 60s.
Oh, okay.
But he was, as far as I'm aware, there was a lot of, he's a very interesting man. There's a lot of suspicion around him when he left that he was working with organised crime.
Oh, okay.
And, he denied the existence of any organised crime right up until he left at the FBI. A very controversial character. There's a lot of different stories about him. Really interesting. I definitely read up on him. The only reason why I know is because one of my favourite shows is Boardwalk Empire.
Oh, yeah.
And you see his rise to the FBI on that show, in the later seasons anyway.
Oh, right. Okay.
But I tend, because it's such a historical show, and I love stuff like that, I end up reading about all the characters and what their lives were like, and so, very interesting.
Recently we've been watching Peaky Blinders, talking about like that time period, and then the latest series, the mafia were involved with it, so I've been sort of watching that kind of stuff again.
It is interesting,
It's interesting, also terrifying.
Yeah.
Basically, the series, they get served the Black Hand, and it's basically like them saying, you're going to die, basically, or we're going to kill you. It's like sort of a threat. Yeah, it's sort of interesting, yeah. There's these sort of like traditions, I guess, out there for them.
Just to bring it back on topic, isn't the Washington FBI building called the J. Edgar Hoover?
I think it is.
Building.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah. Scully again says that if these conspiracies were true, that thousands of people would be killing tens of thousands a year. And she said that it would be the greatest criminal conspiracy in the history of civilization. And the PTC just nonchalantly says, well, finally you understand what you're up against.
Yeah.
It's like, that's quite ominous.
Yeah. And again, they've taken her sarcastic tone and just took it completely literally. Yeah. It's like they're blind to everything but this sort of this theory that they've got.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether that's because they know it's true or it's because they're just so blinded by faith.
Yeah. They go into one of the school corridors, Mulder and Scully do, And Mulder goes to the drinking fountain. Scully says that it's mass hysteria, and them being here is just making this worse. And as Mulder goes to take a drink from the fountain, so he notes that it's going counterclockwise, which he says shouldn't happen in this hemisphere of the Earth.
I didn't know that was an actual thing. I thought that was a myth.
I've
like the whole story that in Australia the toilets
goes the
spin the
other
other
way.
way. Is that true?
I don't know about the toilets, but I know like if you pour water, it does spin the other way in the
I
bowl.
wonder why that is.
Something to do with gravity.
Oh, well, thank you, Luke. Thank you for educating me. I'm glad I now know more.
Some science shit. Oh no.
But yeah, it looks weird apparently, and it shouldn't. Basically what he's saying is it shouldn't be possible.
Yeah, and he says that something is making it possible. We're then in a science lab, and we see all the students are sort of filing out and giving their papers to Mrs. Paddock. And she asks to speak to Kate and Andrea before they go. She says she knows it's hard for them to talk to the adults, but she's always there to listen. And they sort of nod and carry on out. She goes to put the test scores away, and this is where we see, as she opens the drawer, there's a heart and a nice pair of eyeballs.
They reveal this. I reveal it pretty quickly. Like I was expecting like a show long mystery between the 4 faculty members.
Yeah.
I was expecting, not knowing which of those 4 had turned against the other 3.
Yeah,
that's why I thought it was going.
Yeah,
but no, this kind of left field.
It's brilliant in this episode because we always constantly know more than all of the characters in it. You know, where usually in X-Files we find out after the fact, you know what I mean? And we're like, oh, finally that's why that means. Here, Mulder and Scully don't find out who it is until right at the very end, after we've already known it a third of the way through.
Yeah, definitely.
It is really good.
It's just so strange. So yeah, we've got this strange woman that has come out of nowhere. It's weird that the way she put the test results right on top of the heart.
Puts them on top, yeah.
I was like,
well, they're ruined.
Yeah, like they're going to be stained, aren't they?
And shuts the drawer and smiles in this sinister sort of way. So instantly, as we've mentioned, we know who this killer is now.
We've got the enemy, and we know who it is.
We know who it is. We then see some kids leaving school, saying their goodbyes, and then in a reception area outside Cal Gagne's office, Scully's at a desk working on a laptop, and we pan past and we see Mulder and Paul in conversation, basically. He asks Paul about the high cause of depression at the school and other mental health issues.
Yeah.
And Paul just says this is normal with a high school. And Mulder asks if it's any kind of repressed memories or anything like that.
Yeah, is it, again, a bit of a leap, I thought. Okay, we'll go with it.
We'll go with it. But Paul just says it's just headaches. And
he doesn't care about this job, does he?
This is just a paycheck for this guy. And he asks if there's been any past ritual abuses. And Paul says, no, there's not been any. And he asks if he could speak to anyone who's complained the most about these mental health issues or anything like that. And Paul says that would be a betrayal of their trust in them as counsellors, basically. So he just shuts that down completely, which I can see his point. But when the FBI is asking you to speak to potential witnesses, I feel like we've spoke about this before. I don't think you can shut them down. I think they can.
It goes beyond sort of. It's not doctor patient as such, is it? But that sort of confidentiality agreement, I think it goes beyond that.
I think police can even get around that anyway. Like if they they believe somebody's in danger, they can get any records they want. So it doesn't matter
for the safety of the client or the customer.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the patient.
Exactly. Yeah. So Mulder comes out and explains to Scully what Paul's just said, and Scully thinks that there's probably nothing going on here. Mulder thinks that he's hiding something, and Scully then says, "I've read some report on the internet." The way they say this is like this some magical sort of device. It is hilarious. Seen in 1995, their internet is literally just some green text.
Yeah,
but it's crazy. And they start implicating like a Jewish person in this conspiracy. Initially, is what I thought they were saying. as she talks about this report of somebody being murdered in the same way, of having their eyes and heart cut out. But she says this is from a Nazi newspaper from 1934, and she says that it's possible that this is a case of, this hysteria being whipped up to use as persecution.
Yeah.
For whoever is sort of...
Which you see throughout history.
Yeah. So in this case, it's sort of these occultists, I guess.
Yeah.
They're the new target. And Mulder starts talking about modern day witches or Wiccans, as they're called now. And he explains that they have ties to nature and have rituals, but they're more just druidic, I suppose. You know what I mean? They're not really like devil worshippers, I guess. And then he says even the Church of Satan doesn't worship Satan anymore, or it doesn't... sorry, I got that wrong. Wiccans don't worship Satan, but he says that even the Church of Satan doesn't do murder or torture. They've renounced those practices now. And Scully asks, so if it's not witches, then who is it, or what is it? Yeah.
Don't they say that they've denounced witches' existence as well? Or am I thinking about another show?
So are you on about like?
Because I'm pretty sure they said like the even Satan worshippers don't believe in witches.
Oh, I think
like they mention it in passing, don't they?
I think I've heard somewhere that the Satanic Church doesn't actually believe in Satan as an entity.
Yeah,
they believe in like teachings of just being, not selfish. I guess I don't want to get this wrong, but basically they believe that like
we're all individualistic.
Yeah, you have to sort of do what's best for you. Yeah. Not to say that you have to murder people and stuff like that, but you have to look out for yourself because no one else will, is their sort of philosophy, I guess. Again, I'm paraphrasing and I might be getting it wrong there, but basically they don't believe that there's...
And that's the idea that they're trying to put across anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, we see Mrs. Paddock now in a science lab and she's wheeling around this like trolley that's basically filled with dead piglets.
Yep.
This is something that's completely lost on us in England because we do not have dissections at all.
I'd love to have done it.
Yeah.
And I, like, all the way through secondary school or high school in America, I was waiting for that one science class where you dissect a frog. I was waiting for it. And that's just not a thing over here, though. Yeah, and I'd have loved to have done it, just to, out of an interest to sort of see what it's like. But yeah, no, we don't do that over here. I don't even know whether it's is it still a common practice in America? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I really don't know.
Yeah. But like really off topic, it always, whenever I see a dissection scene, it always reminds me of Starship Troopers. You know that scene where they're cutting open the bug?
They always seem to go badly, don't they?
Yeah. You never see a scene where it all goes...
And there we go, and we're done. It's usually like they'll try and cut the frog still like, oh no, they'll jump on someone, or it's... Or in this case... she starts talking about them needing to dissect these pig embryos, and we see her walk past a large snake, and she actually feeds a piglet to the snake. Mm-hmm. Shannon Aubrey, is it Aubrey or Aubrey? I think it was Aubrey.
Aubrey. A-U-S-B-U-R-Y.
I'm thinking of an episode a few weeks ago. So Shannon Aubrey is struggling with this dissection.
This is Aubrey's stepdaughter as well, isn't it?
Yeah. And she starts having flashes, and we start hearing these like demonic sort of like music or chanting. And then the dead pig's heartbeat starts beating, or like she sees it beating. And then the pig moves and squeals. So she screams. And we then see Shannon as it's cut to her sitting on a sofa wrapped in a blanket.
It's just like this emotional breakdown because of this, doesn't she?
Basically, yeah. And she's sort of rocking back and forth as Paddock is sort of like reassuring her. And Paul says that her father will be here soon. And as soon as she says this, she starts shouting no and repeating that, and then just runs away.
Now, in this next scene, it goes 0 to 60 in like seconds. Really spirals out of control now.
It's from this point onwards where it stops being... It doesn't really have any jokes or any like jabs in after this point. But anyway, she runs in the corridor. Mulder stops her and says that she's remembering something. So then she goes outside to the benches outside of school and is talking to Mulder and Scully. And she says, she asks if they know who her stepdad is. She says that it's Jim Osbury, who's on the PTC we've seen earlier. And she says that her mom was a teacher. And she says that her real dad ran away. She says that her mom met Jim at a seminar and they got married. Doesn't explain what seminar.
No.
They moved here when she was 4, and a couple weeks into that, she went to what they call the American Stonehenge, which I've never heard of.
I've never heard of that.
I didn't know it was a thing. She says that she remembers when she was 4, Jim took her there in his car, and she says that he made her do things in the back seat. Now, again, they don't explicitly say what, but you can tell from the implication that this is some kind of like sexual abuse.
And she literally does go on to say that they raped her.
Yeah.
I was very surprised by how graphic she was talking about this, because like it's just something that we've not really seen in the X-Files, and like they go on to say some horrific things, and again, I think later on in the episode, if I'm remembering correctly, they sort of say it didn't actually happen that way, didn't it? She had like these memories implanted in her, basically, or she like made them up, not knowingly, but like it embellished some of the stories.
They say that, but they don't explicitly. They sort of imply that the PTC are quite untrustworthy.
Yeah.
So also, you could be like, well, this might have actually happened.
Yeah.
They don't really explain that away.
But some of the things she says doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, she goes on to say that. I don't know, I'm skipping into it, but like, she goes on to say she's raped in this basement. She's raped by the faculty members multiple times, and she's given birth to like multiple children, and they're all killed and buried. And it doesn't really add up because, like, how old is she there? Like, what, 13, 14, something like that? Yeah. Like, there's no way unless she was giving birth at 7 years old, like, how would that work? And so later on, they do mention that it was just memories that she didn't know she had inside her that weren't her memories.
And they were mixed with, like, media sort of
Yeah. So maybe that works, but I'm not sure. It does leave it open to interpretation. But yeah, regardless, I was surprised that it was as dark as it got, because this just took a turn.
Yeah, it really did.
Especially when you... Sorry to keep interrupting, but especially when you compare it to almost a slapstick scene of opening a drawer and finding a heart and eyeballs in the drawer.
Yeah,
it's like, I know it's like, it's a grim thing when you say it, but like, it
the
was
way
almost,
it was presented.
It was almost slapstick. Oh, watch out, it's in my drawer.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then to just take this dark spiral. Very interesting.
Yeah, she goes on to say that Jim said that he would hurt her if she said anything. And she said she'd have this out-of-body experience when this happened. And she says the others came to, meaning the PTC members came to the house, as she said, into the basement. They wore black and red robes. I don't know whether that actually... Yeah, it's just sort of showing that they're cultists, I guess, I think. It says that they would chant and tie her and her sister up. And they would make them both do things. They called her a breeder, apparently. And she says that they got her pregnant, killed the babies, as you said, and buried them in the cellar. She said she had about 3 babies. And she also says that Jim murdered her 8-year-old sister as a sacrifice.
Which is another reason to not believe the story, isn't it?
Doesn't add up,
later on, they speak to... Is it her mother that they speak to?
Yeah.
Who says, yes, that happened, but it was cot death. Or quick death in America.
She said she was 8 weeks old.
8 weeks, yeah. So she's getting confused. So you don't really know what's true and what's not.
Yeah.
But she's obviously haunted by something.
Yeah, they've definitely done something. And I mean, Jim does say it later on that they did do rituals on them. But,
he claims that they wasn't sexual at all, but...
At all.
I don't know. She's got this. She got this from somewhere. And she's obviously traumatized.
And you can't trust the PTC. They're untrustworthy to their core. So who knows?
It's interesting. It's left to our devices to figure that out. Exactly. I suppose.
She breaks down crying, and Scully consoles her. And we then see Mulder and Scully heading to the Osbury residence.
Yeah, basically to confront them about it.
Yeah. He's a bit sceptical. He says, imagine if these things are true. So he's not believing it completely, but...
He has to investigate,
yeah, exactly.
You can't just, literally, there's no way you could listen to the acclaim of that sort and just at least not have a look into it. You've got to, haven't you?
Jim comes running out of the house and he's angry and he's asking, where's Shannon? And they say that she's staying with friends. He asks why they wouldn't come home. Why she wouldn't come home to them. And then we immediately cut to him basically denying these claims. You can tell he's been told what's been said.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Aubrey, who we find out is also Barbara Aubrey, is crying. Scully says, they basically ask for a glass of water for Barbara.
She wasn't implicated in this at all, by the way.
That's what she goes on to say, yeah. They move Jim out of the room, and he goes to get a glass of water. Scully says that she's not implicated, she hasn't accused her of anything. And but she asks, is there anything that could have happened that might have caused her to say these things? And Barbara says that they've been having marriage issues, and she might have neglected her, so maybe that's where this has all come from, as like a cry for help, basically. And she also says that they don't really get along as mother and daughter. Scully asks if she has ever been pregnant, and she's outraged at this. She says how old she is.
Yeah, and you would think that they wouldn't be able to hide it from her mother, really, would you? Yeah. Not 3 times. That's 3 years of her life that she's been pregnant. You'd think, interesting. Scully
asks her about her other daughter, and she starts explaining, as we said earlier, that she had another daughter, but she died when she was 8 weeks old to cot death. And we then cut to the kitchen, and Jim's pouring some water, and Mulder just point blank just asks him if he did all this.
Yeah.
And Jim is just angry at this.
Yeah, and you would be, wouldn't you? If you hadn't done it, well, even if you had, you'd still be angry, I suppose.
Yeah.
So.
Been accused, Jim says that he would kill anyone who did the things to her that she's claiming has been done. And as Mulder walks away, he says that's not very Christian tenet. And Jim starts saying, "Thou God of vengeance, shine forth." And Mulder says that even the devil can quote scripture if he needs to. So he's sort of saying that, you're not giving it. Yeah, he's on to him, basically. And as this is happening, Mulder had opened the door to the cellar, and at this point, the cellar door just slams shut. And Jim just says, "How dare you?" And he tells him to get out of the house. And he says that Mulder's put these ideas into her head, basically. And he says that the devil travels in many forms, and Mulder might just be one. So again, he's trying to push the blame onto anyone else.
Yeah.
We then cut to the science lab, and again, it just keeps getting darker and darker from this point onwards.
Yeah.
Mrs. Paddock is talking to Shannon, as Shannon wants to carry on with this dissection. So Paddock sort of agrees to it, says that she'll be in her office if she needs her, and sort of jokes to her that if you take off, you'll take off your jewellery because you don't want to get it stuck in a pig guts, basically, which sounds an innocent line until we find out what
I guess that's what was going on as soon as she said it.
Now we know what the character is.
And don't forget, earlier in the episode, they mentioned about having to have a personal item on the altar, on the witch's altar. So.
Yeah, exactly. So Paddock sort of is watching on and then shuts the shutters, to which we then see inside Paddock's office, and we see this candle flickering, and she's got her hand in front of it, and she's holding her charm bracelet over the flame. We hear these weird animal grunts and groans, and we keep seeing Paddock's face, which is every time they cut to her face when she's doing this ritual, is sort of strained. She's sort of sweating and whatnot. We then see Shannon in the science lab. She's looking down at this embryo, and she picks up a scalpel and looks at it. We then see back in Paddock's office, and she sort of starts moving her hand, picks it up from the desk, and she brings it to her face, pinches it, and then we see Shannon holding the scalpel. And this is the point where you realise she's controlling her.
Like a puppet,
Yeah. And she sort of starts doing what Paddock is doing. She lowers her hand, Paddock does, in her office, till it's on her wrist. And then we see Shannon's hand with the scalpel against her wrist. And we see Paddock now make this gesture like a slash. And we instantly know what's happened. We hear a scream. And we cut to the bracelet falling. We pan outside as it's doing this panning, swirling shot. Yeah. And we see Shannon on the floor. The stool's knocked over and she's just got blood coming from her wrist. So now we know that she's made her kill herself, basically.
Yeah. And so we know now that this is a witch. Like, she uses personal items to cast spells on people.
It's either a witch or some kind of like demon or something like that. Maybe I don't know. Like, it's difficult to tell. They don't really explain it, which is good. I think it's better that way because it's left unknown at the end.
Definitely. And throughout this episode, it's kind of scary the amount of things she can do.
Yeah.
Because like, literally, they don't come close to catching her. Really, like she
is gone before they even know who it is.
Yeah, and like. She could, like, there could be multiple things like this in this universe, and it's quite scary.
We hear thunder and lightning as this room is now full of police officers. We see Scully talking to Mrs. Paddock, who is looking distressed. She's a very good actor.
Yeah, she is.
Mulder's sort of making notes, and he's sort of looking at this snake tank. And Paddock says that she heard a crash outside and ran out of her office. They ask if anybody else could have got into here, and she says no, she didn't hear anyone, and she locks the doors when she's in at night because she gets scared. Is basically what she says. Mulder's wandering into Paddock's office, and he notices that Shannon's bracelet is on the desk. We then see outside as the PTC sort of in the rain with umbrellas up, and Deborah says that there's a dark angel amongst them. And it wants a sacrifice. Pete says that it's been years since they've done this. And Paul says that maybe they've lost their faith. Again, sorry with the names with this, but basically it's the different members of the PTC talking.
It doesn't really make a difference. They're all as one.
They might as well be one person. Or two, I guess, because they need one to die. Jim starts asking if any of them were responsible for this. And Paul says that they all are, that this is a portent, and her death allows them to get rid of the police, basically, because they can scapegoat his daughter as the person who killed Jerry.
Which you can tell he's not happy with at all.
No. She says, or the PTC says that they can make it out like he cut out his eyes because she didn't want him to see other girls, and cut out his heart because she was heartbroken, to sort of make this some kind of weird... murder, I guess. Paul says that when they leave, they actually need to rekindle their faith. And Jim just stares at the camera, basically. He stares at them, which is at the camera, and it pans up and we see their umbrellas from the top now. So, we then go to the science lab. Sorry if I'm going at a breakneck pace. I don't know if there's anything...
That's the thing. We was literally talking off air, wasn't we, that the amount of scenes in this episode, it just flicked backwards and forwards constantly. So there's no other way to sort of deal with it. But I'm with you.
Especially the scenes where it's doing the controlling like bits of Paddock. It just keeps flicking back between the two, and you're like, which one do I say it is?
Yeah, but basically, I think the best way to do it is whatever's happening at those sequences, we know the teacher, the substitute teacher, is controlling them.
Yeah, exactly. Mrs. Paddock now is talking to Mulder and Scully as well. She says that she couldn't imagine her hurting herself. She's quite old-fashioned and doesn't believe that kids can do these things. And Mulder sort of gestures at the necklace, or sort of looks at it, and she says that she just wanted to keep hold of a necklace or keep it safe.
Yeah.
Anyway, they let her go. Mulder and Scully are talking on their own, and Mulder says that her office has got this smell of incense, which he notes is used in black mass rituals. And Scully does say that there's some oddities to her story. She says that the man that Paddock replaced developed necrotizing fasciitis. I think it's called fasciitis.
I
isn't it?
didn't make a note, to be honest.
Yeah, we'll go with that for now. Anyway, which is basically a flesh-eating bacteria, which Mulder says is rare, but he developed this on the day of Jerry's murder.
Yeah. And also no one knows how she got there.
Yeah, none of them can recall hiring Paddock. None of the staff can, we hear every time they mention Paddock's name, thunder cracks.
Yeah.
Which is ominous enough.
Yeah.
Scully says, maybe it's just a coincidence. And Mulder basically sets about a plan that he's going to get a warrant for Orsbury's house. And Scully is going to do some more investigation into Paddock. And then we cut and see Paddock picking up a pen, which is Scully's pen.
Yeah, we know that.
Which I was like, Scully's in danger again. But it doesn't turn out that way, so thankfully.
Yeah.
We're then in the kitchen in the Orsbury residence. It's dark and Mulder breaks in, basically. He opens it up and goes downstairs into the cellar. He reaches the bottom of the cellar and we see these red walls that have been described by Shannon in his rituals. And then as he turns around, Orsbury is standing behind him, Jim is standing behind him. We're then in the reception area, in the office again, and Scully's working on a laptop. She's doing some more internet searching.
Yeah, she's getting good at this internet market.
Yeah. I mean, she's doing no like memes or anything like that. This was pre-meme internet, wasn't it? Yeah. All text. It's a very basic internet. We see that she's done a name search for Paddock, and she's got no prior arrests, no outstanding warrants, nothing. Basically, she's clean. We then cut back to the cellar, and we see that Orsbury's talking to Mulder, and Jim says that his religion, or as he calls it, his family, goes back 7 generations. He said that they fled persecution, and he was always raised to believe that Christianity is the same as hypocrisy. He says that man is supposed to do what thou willst and not do unto others. I think that's where the satanic sort of thing is, do what thou willst. And he says that but they believe that man was just an animal, which is basically no different to anything that walks on 4 legs. And he says that their religion gave them health and wealth. But then he finally has seen the hypocrisy of the others and himself. And as you mentioned, he's angry about the PTC. He can't believe that they would set his daughter up to protect themselves, basically.
He said, I think he goes on to say that he knows that he's better than them because he wouldn't do that.
He's better than an animal, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the difference between him and an animal, that he wouldn't do that. And
he does say as well that he knows that his previous beliefs are responsible for her being killed now. And he says at that point he knew he had to talk to, he says to him, by meaning Mulder or Scully. We're now back in Paddock's office, and we see her again doing this ritual, but this time she's got Scully's pen over the candle. So immediately I'm thinking, oh no, what's she going to do to Scully?
Yeah.
We see Scully looking through the laptop again. She's looking at work searches for Paddock, and she finds that she's actually had teaching jobs from the 70s onwards. So again, completely clean. There's nothing. From their perspective, we obviously know
there's no reason to suspect her, though, is there?
Yeah, that's the thing. We obviously know that she is the culprit.
Yeah.
But outside looking in, she's done nothing wrong.
No,
she's just,
exactly.
Just here. We see we're back in the cellar again, and Mulder asks Jim if he's ever abused Shannon, and he says that he's never done anything sexual, but they did do rituals on her. He says that the blood of the young is powerful, and that they use this in their rituals against their will, basically. He says that they didn't trust the girls, or the girl, I guess. Yeah. Again, they don't sort of recognise the sister that...
No, because again, it was 8 weeks of their life, wasn't it?
He says that they didn't trust them not to talk, so they didn't include them in this, but they never physically hurt them.
Yeah.
And he said they would skip over some of the more ancient rituals that they didn't want to do, to which Mulder sort of likens to drinking grape juice instead of wine at communion. I guess it's the only sort of religious thing you can compare it to. And Mulder starts asking about Shannon's memories, to which Jim explains that they did a ritual to suppress the memories. And he says when she became of age, they would make her aware of what happened and would bring her in. And she says that the events that she's recalled must be a bit of the truth and mixed in.
Yeah, sensational media, he calls it. Yeah.
Tabloid crap, I think.
Yeah. So she's filled in the gaps with, like, video games and, TV stories.
Anything that you hear in the news of, like, disparaging anything like that. So he asks if the others, meaning the rest of the members of the PTC, killed Jerry or Shannon. And he says no. And Mulder at this point says, well, they're still responsible. And he basically says, you can't call up the devil and then ask him to behave. Yeah. So Mulder at this point clearly believes that there is some kind of spiritual, like, sort of problem here with this religion. We see Paddock again. She's still got the pen over the flame, but she moves out her hand to a telephone. She types out a number, And then we see back in the cellar, Mulder's cell phone rings. And basically he hears Scully on the other end.
Yeah.
And she says that she's in help and needs him. So Scully places Jim under arrest and handcuffs him in the cellar, runs upstairs, locks him in the basement, and then runs to his car.
So she's used the pen to impersonate Scully rather than make Scully do anything.
Yeah.
Which is, again, it doesn't really ever go into the extent of her powers, but like it just seems like she can do anything as long as she's got that personal item.
Yeah. It's sort of like voodoo, I suppose.
Yeah, because she can control animals, she can do this, she can do that, and it's like there's no extent to like what this witch or demon can do. Which again, I'd be very surprised if we didn't see this again.
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it'd work in a sequel or not, but it is
maybe not the same character. I'm not talking like about Paddock. I'm literally about cultists and this idea of like witchcraft or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised.
I'd like to see it like uncovered again, and maybe Mulder and Scully win this time.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? But anyway, so he leaves Jim in the cellar as he drives off, and we see Jim crying in the cellar, and the door unlocks, opens up. And then we see a giant snake start crawling down into the basement. Which
we know there was a snake in Paddock's office.
Yeah, exactly. It starts sneaking up behind him and then starts wrapping around his neck and his body. And he just starts choking as he's being crushed, basically, by this thing. Mulder's car pulls up outside the school. He jumps out, runs into the building. And then we see... Jim's face again, he's choking. We hear these like cracking noises.
I'd assume bones breaking.
Yeah. And
snakes are terrifying. Like I love snakes. Like I absolutely adore snakes. I've had them around my neck and everything. But like the power that they have. And like once they've got you, that's it.
That's it, yeah. You're gone. But yeah, he finally like goes limp, and then we see the snake slide onto the floor, turn around, and then its jaw starts widening as it goes to eat his foot, basically, or the rest of his body. Mulder runs in to the reception area that Scully was working in, and he shouts for Scully, and she sort of sat there surprised as what he's doing there, and he says that she called her on the phone, and she said she hasn't even touched her phone, and this is when Mulder realizes what's happened. We see back in the cellar, we see the snake's head, and it's this engorged like body now as it's closing its mouth. Really good scene. I really like that. Like it's a really disgusting thing to watch. You know what I mean? But it's like visually, like it's like that's pretty impressive.
Oh and the symbolism behind it as well. Obviously, snakes closely related to the devil and the serpent that's in the Garden of Eden. So like very much the symbolic act of this snake eating him refers back to this whole cult demon worshipping sort
of them turning their back on the demon, and then now it's like
taking form.
Taking revenge on them. So we see Paddock in Paddock's office. We see her face, and it looks in pain. We see her hold the candle up to her face, and then we see her eyes, and they sort of look black at first, and then they go to these like sort of snake eyes, basically.
Like the slit pupils.
Yeah. It's quite a sinister look.
Yeah.
And again, like now, there's no jokes. This is dark. You know what I mean? We see back at the Usbury residence. We see Mulder and Scully's car on the drive, and we see them both go into the kitchen. Mulder's telling Scully that Jim's confessed, and he said that he's going to give up all the names of the conspiracy. And Scully says that she doesn't think Paddock's involved. Again, she seems completely normal.
Yeah.
They draw their guns and go into the cellar as they notice the doors open. One thing I wondered at this point, where's the wife?
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know where the wife is.
Yeah, because you would assume that they've just gone into a house. Jim was in there.
Yeah.
Where's the wife?
I don't know.
Send her sleep. She got like earbuds in or something like that. Clueless to her husband being eaten by a snake downstairs. And they go into the cellar and we see this bloody skeleton on the floor. Scully thinks maybe it's acid, but they find no evidence of a reaction. And Mulder does realise that there's snake tracks in the dirt, to which Scully says that that's impossible, that a snake could have done this. It would take hours to consume and weeks to digest. And then you find this large sort of snake skin.
Yeah, you can't get much more evidence than that.
Well, it's like, yeah.
It is a snake.
And then Scully at this point remembers them seeing this python in Paddock's room. And I thought they'd put two and two together here, thinking, oh, it's Paddock. But they just thought, oh, it's that snake that was in there. So, yeah, they still aren't aware that this is Paddock. We then see in the conference room where they had their meetings, the PTC, we see Pete talking, and he says that the sheriff called, and he says that Pete's dead because he was talking to the FBI. So this is where they implicate that the sheriff's also involved in this conspiracy. Yeah. Deborah asks if they killed him, and Paul says, well, we know who's killed him. He says that Jim had no faith and was punished. And then they say they need to act, or the same will happen to them. And Deborah says the FBI must know who they are. And Paul says, well, if Mulder knows who they are, the offering will be more meaningful, so they're planning to attack the FBI now. We see a car approach outside, and it's Mulder and Scully. They blow out the candles, and Deborah says as they're leaving, lock up the office, and Paul notices that his keys are missing at this point. We then see in the science lab, we see Mulder and Scully come in, and we hear like a choking sound. And they notice that Paddock's on the floor. They go over to console her, and she said that the PTC were taking a snake. And she says that she's learned things about them, and she says that she thinks that they've killed this boy. She says they're all in the conference room, and Mulder says that he can't get an ambulance, he can't call through to them.
She plays them like a fiddle, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's really good at acting. This scared old woman.
Got them running around.
Yeah. They say they'll lock the door, and Scully says they'll be right back. And then as soon as they leave, expression changes from like this scared woman to like a quite commanding.
Malevolent,
yeah. You know that she's planned all this. So there's quite action heavy. So I'll try and sort of contain all this to
we'll just
basics.
go through it, and then we can talk about it afterwards.
Yeah. So they go into the conference room, guns ready. They start looking through the drawers, and they notice this like glass jar on the table. They hold it up, and it's got eyeballs in it. As they're looking at this, a bright light sort of appears from behind Mulder, and as he turns around, he gets hit by a chair by one of the guys. I can't remember the guy's name now. I didn't have it written down. He falls down, and they sort of have this like fight. Mulder grabs one of the guys and tries to slam him on the desk and hit him. And Scully goes to get a gun, but Deborah appears, gets it, and points a gun at Scully. And then they realise at this point they're trapped basically by the PTC. Yeah. They drag them through the gym and into the showers. Basically, they've got guns and shotguns. Specifically, one of the guys has a shotgun, which comes into play later on. And they chuck Scully and Mulder into these showers and turn the water onto them. And he notes that he's turned these on because it'll make the cleaning up the blood easier later on. Deborah lifts up this like ceremonial dagger. It's like quite ornate, and starts chanting in Latin. And then we see Paddock groaning, breathing with her hand over the candle again. And we see the guy with the shotgun. I think his name is Paul. He starts like changing the bullets or the shells for the shotgun. He points them at Mulder and Scully, raises his gun, and then we sort of pan away, and we hear two shots. As it cuts back to Paddock who's holding something over the flame. And we cut back, and we see that Paul's there. He's shot, but he's shot the other two members of the PTC. Again,
I kind of saw where this was going. Again, it's this revenge mission from this whatever this thing is.
And then he finally turns the gun on himself, and as he does this, sort of Mulder knows what's happening, sort of shields Scully, and sort of like again they're both sort of working, in trying to protect one another here. And Paul shoots himself with a shotgun. We see these keys drop now. This is what we know that she's taken to command Paul. And as she drops the keys, she says that you are right. It's already too late. And she blows out the candle. We see back in the showers that Mulder and Scully are getting free. And Scully says that he had a weird expression, that he looked like something had control over him. And Mulder then says paddock, and this is finally where the pennies dropped.
Yeah.
They run into the science lab and they start,
too late.
Yeah, they start searching around.
It's far too late.
Yeah.
But again, I just think it's incredible, this whole thing of she's played them so well. Like, they've never been played like this before. Despite the fact that there was pointers all the way through, and she still just played them.
But do you know what, though? Like, there's pointers all the way through, but it's pointers because we've seen it. I do think she's a brilliant actor. I mean, the character, not the... I mean, she's a good actor as well. But yeah, like, the character itself is a brilliant actor, and she's completely clean. There's nothing on her, so...
Yeah.
I mean, it is hard to tell, but anyway, they come into this room and notice that she's missing, and we notice something on the chalkboard, and it just simply says, "Goodbye, it's been nice working with you." Again, such a, like, cocky message to let them know that they've been played. And all the lights then come on, and Mulder and Scully are looking around the class, and we sort of pan out to the outside of the building as though we're watching them from outside, and then it cuts to black, and then that's the end of the episode.
Yeah. Again, an action-packed finale or final sequence.
What did you think of it? Yeah,
I really enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's because it's something that we've not really delved into with like the whole cultist side of things, and I like the fact that they didn't overly explain everything.
Yeah.
I don't think it needed it.
No.
I really don't.
Really
I think it worked as it was. You know what? This and last week's episode, which was Irresistible, I just thought was two really solid Monster of the Week episodes.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
What about you?
Yeah, I really, really like this episode. This is probably going to end up unless, depending what comes towards the end of the series, I reckon this is going to pop up into my top 5.
Oh, okay, interesting.
Because it's got this, like, because it's the first one that's tackled like a satanic sort of, like, this religious sort of spin.
Yeah.
I know we've had the religious one with what was the one with the guy now where he was burnt? The kid was bringing people back to life.
Oh yes,
That was
the preacher.
Yeah, that's the only other religious one I can think of. But this one's sort of the darker side of it. I mean, that's dark as well, but this is like sort of the satanic side. And if you sort of go down this path, sometimes it can get a bit wacky and a bit kooky and stuff. But this is quite...
I don't feel like it got that far.
No, I mean, it's believable. You know what I mean? Like, I don't believe in this stuff, but it's believable in the plot. So
and
I really enjoyed it.
And the darkness of the episode really grounds it as well.
Yeah.
Like, it could have got silly, but it doesn't, because you really are grounded by those horrific things that are happening to people. So yeah, it was a good episode.
Really good episode. Yeah. So, it's that time of the week, or that time of the episode. It's time for...
Luke's production notes.
Hand Die Verletzt, which was written by co-executive producers Glenn Morgan and James Wong, was based on Morgan's idea to feature a snake eating a man in an episode.
What a crazy way to figure out an idea.
I love when people just like have one like just mad idea and just think, let's see what we can come up with. Yeah. And it's just from that like sort of...
I mean, fair enough, it's a great image, so...
It was a good shot, to be fair, that was. I really enjoyed that. Talking of which, of Morgan and James Wong, they left the series after this episode to produce the Fox series, Space Above and Beyond.
What? They don't come back?
Well...
Oh, okay, sorry, did I interrupt too soon?
Now, the line written by Mrs. Paddock on the chalkboard at the end of the episode, "It's been nice working with you," also acted as a goodbye to the crew on the show.
Wow, I like that.
The two later returned to the show in the 4th season. So we're gonna have a season and a half where they're not involved.
because they've done a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
A lot of the Monster of the Week episodes,
Yeah,
if I
yeah.
remember correctly.
Yeah, so it might have a completely different feel in this season and a half.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
God knows what it could be like. But series creator Chris Carter described this episode as a cautionary tale about playing with fire, playing with things bigger and badder than you might imagine.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, you can definitely see that.
I wonder whether the X-Files will ever do like a Ouija board episode.
Oh,
Because you usually get those cautionary tales about a Ouija board, don't you?
yeah. Do you
Playing
know what?
with powers beyond your control.
Recently, I had an urge to mess around with a Ouija board.
I'd love to do it. I would. Yeah.
Because I don't.
You don't believe it? No?
I don't believe it, and I know the trick of what
I'd
it
be
is.
the guy moving the thing
Like,
around
oh
to
no,
fool
he
everybody
keeps
else.
saying 666. I watched somebody on a live broadcast, like live stream, decided to mess with like a spirit board, but somebody was pranking them at the same time. They were like acting really scared. They were like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to get involved with this. So they left. And then they were doing this like spirit board, and then all of a sudden they threw something onto the their what's it, and they were all like, "What is going on? What is going on?" And then they cut it. And they had to explain later on, like afterwards. It was like, "No, he's messing around." It was the best ending ever because it's like, "What was that? Was that an actual ghost?" So it was quite funny. But yeah, anyway, in an interview, he also praised the purposely clashing tones of the entry, noting it begins almost comical with the PTC saying satanic prayers and toads raining from the sky. However, as it goes on, it becomes increasingly dark. And so, yeah, I definitely...
Exactly what we said.
Yeah, I noticed that, that it does. I think it's from the point of, as soon as the mention of the sexual abuse comes in, it just, no jokes, nothing like silly. It's just a dark episode from there.
That might be the perfect way to deal with it, you know, because you tackle the whole notion of it being a little bit kooky head on. Mm-hmm. You've tackled that, and it's out the way. You're not trying to hide away from it. You've already mentioned it, and then you've just said, right, but this story's not going to be that.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? I thought it was quite an interesting way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Most of the names used in this episode are from popular culture or in references of some kind. Crowley High School. Do you want to take a guess?
No idea.
It's reference to the British ceremonialist and occultist Aleister Crowley.
Never heard of him.
He's a very popular sort of figure amongst like occult readers.
Okay.
It's where Aleister Black got his name.
Oh, really? Yeah. Okay.
Again, wrestling.
Wrestling reference, as always.
The character names Deborah Brown and Paul Vitaris were based on fans of the series who were active on the internet. In fact, the inspiration for Vitaris was a Cinefantastique critique and reviewer named Paula Vitaris.
Okay.
So there we go. Mrs. Paddock's name was based on the toad demon Paddock in the first scene of Shakespeare's play Macbeth. Now, I've read Macbeth and I do not remember that demon at all.
No, me neither.
I remember the witches on the heath.
There was three witches, yeah.
Were they I thought they were talking to somebody called Hecate or something like that. I don't remember a demon.
No, I don't remember that at all.
We'll have to have a look.
I really like Macbeth as well.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I don't remember Paddock at all, but anyway, who knows?
We'll have to reread.
The episode title means the hand that wounds in German, which we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
The title is taken from the part of the prayer that the PTA say, and in its entirety, this is going to be fun. Sein ist die Hand Die Verletzt. Now, if anyone does speak German, let me know how terrible that sounded with a Black Country accent. Like that might be awful. And it means his is the hand that wounds, should I say?
Yeah.
The Hand Die Verletzt was directed by Kim Manners, making it his first contribution to the series. Manners would go on to be a prolific director who directed many of the series' episodes.
Oh, interesting.
So that's interesting. Originally, another director was supposed to helm the episode, but plans fell through and Manners was hired. The producers for the show were initially concerned about bringing Manners on board, as the director subscribed to the philosophy of Stephen J. Cannell, who strongly believed that writers and directors should work together to cast characters, select filming locations, and shoot episodes.
So be involved right from the get-go rather than be brought in.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I do kind of... I can see why, as a producer, you'd not want that, because it's just a headache of having
getting
to
everyone
schedule.
together.
But for the vision of the show,
Yeah.
I think it
I feel like if I was a director, I'd want the same thing.
Yeah, I would be the same. I wouldn't want to just be giving it towards the end and then just go, okay, go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can't really put a stamp on it.
At the end of the day, a monkey could do that. Do you know what I mean? You if you want to be involved in the creative process, if you're putting your name to it, then I'd be the same.
I'd want to be involved at the start. But anyway, according to Morgan, many at the time believed that the school of thought was a lesser kind of directing. So, maybe they looked down on it at the time. However, Morgan was a champion for Manners, and thanks to the former's lobbying, the show finally allowed Manners to direct an episode. The producers initially considered using fake frogs for the scene where they fall from the sky, but the fake ones looked too bad and didn't hop away after command, according to the charter. As such, real frogs were brought in and dropped on the actors from a short distance, with camera angles being employed to make it look like they were falling from a much higher height.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I thought they were fake when they were falling on them. Obviously, when they were jumping away at the end, obviously they were real, but I didn't think they'd use real frogs.
No.
I don't know if they get away with that these days.
I mean, to be fair, they are made for, like, landing, aren't they?
But also, as well, you don't see where they're actually dropping from. They might have had what's it on the floor?
An umbrella on the floor, and just
it's literally
like a couple of feet.
Yeah, they might be fine, but shooting the scene in which the snake goes down the stairs proved to be a challenge, as the creature kept falling onto the floor after slithering down the stairs. They do say never work with children and animals.
That would have taken all the darkness out of it. If the snake just falls off a stair.
Sit right at the bottom. Yeah. Actor Dan Butler, I think he played Jim Orsbury.
Yeah.
Was terrified of the snake, and he was unable to talk while shooting the scene in the basement. However, Butler's ophidiophobia.
Oh, is that a phobia of snakes?
I believe so. Did have an upside. The show's art department did not need to apply fake sweat to his face.
Fair enough. He's a method actor.
Yeah, he's keeping it real. But that's my production notes for this week. So
fantastic, interesting stuff.
Yeah. So that's all we've got this week, I suppose. If you want to get in touch with us, you can contact us on all the usual methods, and I'll go through them all.
Yeah.
Pretty sure you're probably bored of hearing me tell you the.
Just search for Most Unwanted Podcast. You'll find
You'll find it. I did actually search. If you search for Most Unwanted Podcast now on Google, we're the first one that come up. So yeah, Google us.
Yeah, Google us.
We can't be bothered. So yeah, that's...
Well, all the links are in the bio anyway, so you know how to find them.
Yeah, as I say, you can see them all the time anyway. So that's this week. So next week, we're looking at an episode called Fresh Bones. So
that literally could be anything.
Skeletons. It's going to be like a Harry what's it film. What's it? Harry Housen.
What?
What's his name now? The guy who did all the effects, like the clay effects. Harry Housen.
I've got no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, I've got to find this now before we go off, because I'll look like an idiot. Ray Harryhausen, that's it, yeah.
And who's he?
He's the guy who did, like, do you know, like Sinbad and all the stuff, like the stop motion?
Oh, yes, yeah.
He did all those skeletons, do you know, in, like, what is it, Jason and the Argonauts, where the skeleton's, like, having a fight with him. It's going to be that.
Maybe, we'll see. If it is, you win the predictions game.
What a call that would be. Probably not. Let's say no, but hey, we can live in hope. But anyway, that's been us for this week. So goodbye, Check. Oh, do you have a language that you can say goodbye in that we might be able to entice new fans?
Yeah. Okay. So we're enticing new fans.
Yeah. So we've done Japanese, we've done French, we've done German now, we've done Spanish,
Italian.
How
about shalom?
Is that goodbye?
Yeah. I think so. I think it's hello and goodbye.
Is it?
In Hebrew, isn't it?
Is it? I did not know that.
Oh, no. If I've offended people, I do apologise. Let's just check on air before we go. But I'm pretty sure shalom is...
It means peace.
No, I'm pretty sure you can use it as a greeting.
Used as a salutation by Jews at meetings of parting, meaning peace. Yeah, I mean, shalom might work.
Salutation? I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
If we're wrong, we're sorry.
Oh, no, yeah. Can be used to mean both hello and goodbye. So yeah,
hit
us with it again.
Shalom.
Yeah.
This could be a case for Mulder and Scully.
as Mulder goes to take a drink from the fountain, he says that it's going counterclockwise.
Counterclockwise, is that?
Counterclockwise.
The Freudian slips tonight from you. Oh my days.